Hey everybody, what's going on? We got a bunch of Guns N' Roses news today, so let's get started with probably the biggest news is that today, or actually yesterday it would have been, Guns N' Roses tickets for their Europe and North America shows next year went on sale to the general public. We did have some pre-sales earlier in the week if you guys were American Express card holders or Live Nation members or members of the Night Train. Now in just basically in one day, in 24 hours, Guns N' Roses managed to sell over 1 million tickets as part of their 2017 tour, which already makes it one of the most successful concert tours, I'm sure, of 2017. As you guys know, Guns will be kicking off their European and North America tour next spring, and they'll be doing a number of dates throughout the US and Canada. And there's still some dates that I'm sure will be announced as extra dates. You know, as we know, London in the UK is going to be getting a second show instead of just one, which they originally announced. I would say it's pretty safe to assume that we're going to see some more additional dates announced as part of this tour. Let's turn now to the other Guns N' Roses news. So TeamRock.com has an article up about the Not in This Lifetime tour and how ridiculous the ticket prices are. And you know what? I'm a strong Guns N' Roses supporter. I'm a huge fan, and of course I run my own Guns N' Roses fan channel. But I agree with this. You know, as somebody who bought tickets to their show next summer, I think the ticket prices are outrageous, and part of me almost feels like it's a cash grab, just because they know they can do it. And I know some people say, well, it's not Guns N' Roses' fault. It's the promoters who are greedy and the managers. No, if Guns N' Roses really wanted to, they could ask much less for the ticket prices. You have guys like Kid Rock, of course, who are not as big as Guns N' Roses, but you have some really big name artists. I think it was Garth Brooks, whose tickets are like the same price no matter where you're sitting, and they're like a fraction of what you're paying for Guns N' Roses. As much as I love Guns N' Roses, it did bother me to spend the amount of money I had to go see my favorite band. But they have a whole article about how outrageous the prices are, how amazing it is that people pay money to go see a band like Guns N' Roses 20 years after they've hit their prime, and how everything that Guns N' Roses used to be, they no longer are. So basically their title of their article says how Guns N' Roses' anti-establishment stance is now establishment. Create demand and fleece the punter for as much as you can. So if you guys want to read the entire article, it's fairly long. I've linked to it down below. I know some people may not agree with what I'm saying, but I do feel like the amount of money they're asking people is kind of ridiculous. Especially where I live, the economy is really bad right now. So a lot of fans who may want to go see Guns N' Roses just can't afford to go see it. Let's go on to the other Guns N' Roses news. Now, this was a really interesting article I had never heard about before. So Guns N' Roses are going to be playing Ottawa as part of their tour in 2017, but apparently the mayor of Ottawa and Guns N' Roses go way back. So the year was 1992, guys. George H. Walker Bush was in the White House. Denim was everywhere. And the guy who's now the mayor of Ottawa, Jim Watson, he was then a city councilor, was making his debut on America's Entertainment Tonight. So if you guys don't know, Ottawa is the capital city of Canada. It's not a huge metropolitan city. It's not like as big as Toronto or Vancouver. And basically, the story between him and Guns N' Roses started when Guns was doing their stadium tour with Metallica. When Guns and Metallica's management and tour promoters were looking at places to play, Ottawa was one of those cities they originally scouted as being a possible venue location where they would play. And then they started running into trouble with the actual city council, on which Jim Watson was actually a member of. And basically it came down to how late Guns N' Roses wanted to play. So basically, Ottawa had a noise bylaw that would not extend past 11 p.m. Guns N' Roses wanted to play past 11 p.m. because back in the day, guys, they'd go on stage 3 hours late. It was normal for a Guns N' Roses show to end at 2 or 3 in the morning. And basically, Guns said, you either give us an exemption for the noise bylaw or otherwise we're not going to play your city. And according to Watson, he said it was going to go far too late, and not only that, but the buses wouldn't be running and people would have no way to get home. If you guys know some of the crazy stories about Guns N' Roses back in the day, they played Switzerland back in 1992, I believe it was, and Guns N' Roses had to pay to keep the trains open. If you guys have ever been to Switzerland, I went there a couple of years ago. It was it's one of the most expensive places on the planet. So I can only imagine how much money Guns N' Roses must have lost at that concert just for going on late and keeping the public transit open. He said while some residents actually backed the counselor at that time, he waged an effective campaign that convinced his council colleagues to vote against the bands getting an exemption from the noise bylaw. With the light show and the groups playing 90 minutes apiece, the bands wanted to be able to play until 12:30 a.m., the Citizen reported at the time. The Citizen is the newspaper, the Ottawa Citizen's a newspaper. It's that's I think still around today. So no exemption, no concert, basically. But in what's believed to be the first big loss as a counselor, there was an incredible backlash from the Guns N' Roses fans and Metallica fans in Ottawa, and the issue brought him international media attention in 1992. He said, "It was my one and only time I got an Entertainment Tonight. There was a huge media blizzard, and I got a lot of phone calls, about 700 from mostly teenagers," Watson said. Dan Halen, the host of 54 Rock's morning show, devoted the show to letting angry fans have their say after council rejected the exemption. "Our phone lines were jammed starting at 6 a.m., said Halen at the time. "We decided to drop the music this morning and let them vent their anger. A lot of Guns N' Roses fans are 25, 35, or 40. They're tax-paying, working people. And basically, the knives are out. The Ottawans dissing council and Watson in particular, with one angry fan describing him as a stuffed shirt for his stance." And basically, Watson said at the time, "What I was doing was representing the people I represented. And if that made me a stuffed shirt, so be it. I thought it was unreasonable, and and there was no plan put in place to get people home, and there would be drinking. I was concerned," he said Friday, recalling the moment in time. Unable to withstand the heat, the councillors got out of the kitchen and flip-flopped on their original decision, voting to allow the band to play on. The group said they would cancel their joint appearance if the curfew wasn't extended until 12:30 a.m. That's what Guns N' Roses and Metallica said. "You weren't elected to be rigid," said then Mayor Jacqueline Holzman at the council meeting. "This is a matter of common sense," and a majority of councillors agreed. However, in the end, Guns N' Roses basically said that we're not going to be coming to Ottawa. And actually, the concert promoter, Deborah Rathwell, back in 1992 said, "Not including Ottawa has nothing to do with where Ottawa is geographically located, how many people live in the town, whether they didn't do a petition, or whether city council said anything," said the promoter. They said the simple reason that Guns and Metallica are not playing Ottawa is that they've cut their tour short and they're playing bigger buildings. It isn't any more complicated than this. It's perhaps worth noting, guys, that in 1992, of course, Guns N' Roses started a riot in Montreal after Metallica frontman James Hetfield was badly burned while performing, and Axl cut the Guns N' Roses performance short to about 45 minutes. But now Watson, who was once a councillor for the city of Ottawa, is now actually the head of council, and Guns N' Roses is coming to play Ottawa next summer. He said he won't be attending because, in his words, he's not a heavy metal fan. And he said, "I'll let others enjoy." And he said the Guns N' Roses hasn't asked for an exemption. He said, "We're getting older, so are Guns N' Roses." I always hate it when people say Guns N' Roses are a heavy metal band. They're not heavy metal, but I thought that was an interesting article. If you guys want to read the whole thing, I've linked to it down below. Let's go on to our next Guns N' Roses news. So we got an article from the Irish Sun. So as you guys know, Guns N' Roses are going to be playing Slane Castle next year. It's their second time playing Slane Castle, the first time being in 1992. And I guess Guns N' Roses tour rider is already leaked. So some of the requests, of course, you guys have to remember that Guns N' Roses, the guys are much older. A lot of them are sober now. So it says Guns N' Roses wants alcohol banned backstage and separate dressing rooms for Slane gig next year. Other requests made by the band include steak and pasta and space for yoga. So the article reads that, of course, Guns N' Roses is going to be playing Slane Castle in May of next year. And they said Axl Rose / Duff McKagan have reunited for the first time in 23 years, but a lot has changed since then. While the band's rider for their 1992 gig included cases of Jack Daniels and vodka, the now clean-living rockers have no interest in hell-raising on their return to the Meath venue. Requests include the usual ones for steak and pasta, and Duff McKagan is believed to have requested a space for him to practice Bikram yoga. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I've got a video coming up on my channel showing their new tour rider compared to their tour rider from like 1992. So I think that'll be a really interesting one. And then we've got one last piece of news. Slash and his girlfriend Megan were actually spotted doing some tree shopping for the holiday season. That basically does it for today's Guns N' Roses news. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys were able to get tickets if you were waiting to get Guns N' Roses tickets today. I haven't checked if they've sold out in the city I'm living in. I'm assuming they're pretty close to being sold out, but with the economy being the way it is, maybe a lot of people are choosing not to buy the tickets. We'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts as always, and guys, make sure you subscribe for the latest Guns N' Roses news. Take care.